Hi, I'm Elliott Giessler, and this is the Untitled Sports Show. Today we're going to be talking about the NFL divisional round games and what we think is going to happen in the conference championships.
And we're here. This is our first show.
Yep.
Yeah. We've got all the finest equipment that 1942 had to offer, it seems.
Something along those lines.
Something like that.
Maybe a little earlier.
But Elliott, big weekend, obviously, for football. Let's kind of go through it. First of all, we did have the divisional round playoffs here, and obviously we had a lot of different games that we saw. Of course, we had the Rams and Packers. We had, of course, the Browns and Chiefs. We had the Bills and the Ravens, and we had the Buccaneers and Saints, of course, in no particular order that are listed off there. Let's start with the Saturday game, shall we?
Yeah.
We got Rams, Packers. Let's talk a little bit about that. What was your overall assessment of the game?
This was probably the easiest game to predict the outcome of. Just going into it, the Rams were so battered. Jared Goff had 3 pins in his thumb. You're in Lambeau. Aaron Donald has his ribs injured. I think it was just somewhat of a mismatch. Not maybe in terms of personnel or style of play, but just in terms of sheer talent and how healthy each team was. Aaron Rodgers played well again. He has continued to do so. He's probably going to be the MVP, so that's not too surprising. Jared Goff, I think.
Is that a lock?
I think so. I think there might be a couple votes for Mahomes. There might be some for Derrick Henry, but I think most of them are going to go to Rodgers just because, I mean, the amount of touchdowns he threw compared to the turnovers. But that's besides the point. Yeah, the Rams defense stopped him for a little while, but when you're going up against an offense of that caliber, you have to be able to score points on the other end, and the Rams just couldn't do that with Cooper Kupp gone and Jared Goff injured, like I said before.
Right. So what do you think's up for the Rams in the offseason? How do they
I wouldn't be surprised if they did
forward?
what the Eagles did last year, where I think they stick with Jared Goff because he's good. He's not great, but he's good. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the second or third round they went and drafted a more mobile guy, i.e. a Jalen Hurts. Well, you wouldn't draft Jalen Hurts, but someone along those lines, just because you want more dynamic play, just in case Jared Goff goes down, because John Wolford did fine, but got injured, so it's not great. But I think obviously you got Sean McVay, that's not going anywhere. Their defensive coordinator left, so that could affect. I don't know who they'd hire. They might hire Todd Bowles from Tampa, but I don't think Todd Bowles would want to go from being a defensive coordinator to being a defensive coordinator. I think he'd aim more for a head coaching job. You still got Jalen Ramsey. He's under contract. You don't have to worry about Aaron Donald. I don't think he'd ever leave that team. But maybe you try to get another guy who can rush the passer just so you can do it more consistently. Maybe a linebacker in free agency or through the draft.
Right.
Andrew Whitworth, their left tackle, who's really good. He might retire. He's getting up there in years, so they might have to do something about that. But overall, I don't think anything's wrong. They just got healthy or unhealthy at the wrong time.
Yeah. You're saying that Aaron Rodgers you think is pretty much a lock for the MVP?
Yeah.
Of the league. Okay. So is he at his peak?
I'd say so. I think we're seeing the tail end of his peak. He's definitely closer to hole 18 than hole 9. I think what it was is that he had Mike McCarthy for a long time, who's now in Dallas.
Right.
And Mike McCarthy was good in the early 2010s and late 2000s. But the problem with his offenses, he's mainly an offensive guy, is that he doesn't do motion. He doesn't love play action. He doesn't love establishing a running game. And now with Matt LaFleur as the head coach, they've learned to move people around, and they have Aaron Jones, who's really good, so they can set up a running game, so they can't just rush the passer relentlessly. You have to respect the running game. And you also have to If they put the ball in his chest and then they take it out, it's going to leave guys wide open downfield, especially when you have Devontae Adams and Valdez-Scantling and all those dangerous guys.
Right. Okay. So we're going to move on to the probably a more interesting game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Which was the Ravens Bills.
Yeah.
It's not much to say about the Rams Packers, but let's talk about Ravens Bills here for a minute. Okay, start with your overview. I have a couple questions for you on it. Go ahead.
We saw last week that Lamar Jackson can indeed play in the playoffs, but what we saw this week is that it's not 100% yet. Obviously he got injured, but I don't think they would have won anyway. The second that they didn't, not only did they not score, but he threw the pick six on that late drive in the third quarter. The minute that happened, I knew they couldn't win the game because Buffalo had finally found themselves, so had they needed to score, I think they would have. And the Ravens were just struggling all day. They couldn't throw it deep. They haven't been able to really reliably, but it really showed in this game that Marquise Brown is not a number one guy. He's supposed to be their number one guy, but he just can't. He'd be really good as a 2 because you'd have to double cover someone else, and that would leave him in single coverage. But when you put him in double coverage, it's like kind of a Juju Smith-Schuster or a Julian Edelman situation where he just can't get open in double coverage.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's ask a couple critical questions here. And I was going to ask, the first question I was going to ask you was it over at the injury for Lamar Jackson in the game, or was it over before that? And I think you pretty much answered that.
Yeah, I think it was definitely over when he went out, but it was I didn't feel that the Ravens had any shot once he threw that pick, and especially once they took it back for 6 points. The Bills won by 14, and it never really even felt that close. Like, I thought the game would be close, but the more and more I looked at it, the more and more I watched it, it just felt like the Ravens didn't really have an answer for what the Bills' defense was throwing at them. I don't know exactly what that was. They were pressuring Lamar well, and they were forcing him into third and longs, which he's not great on.
Right.
So that helped them.
It seems like it was a little bit of a bumpy season for the Ravens.
Yeah, they got hot towards the end, and they came in and they beat. Who was it that they beat in the wild card round? It was Tennessee. They beat Tennessee, kind of turning into a rivalry over there. But I think part of it is when you come off a huge win, it's hard to keep that same energy that you had before.
Right.
And especially with Lamar being young and not always playing great in the playoffs, when he finally did play well, he might have taken his foot off the gas a little bit. Maybe not even intentionally, but just like you're kind of getting the monkey off your back. But then he doesn't have the same sense of urgency that he had.
Right. Right. So so this leads me to my next question is, moving forward, I don't know if I want to say, is Lamar Jackson in a decline here? What are we looking at here?
He's not in a decline. I think he has improved as a passer every year of his career. I think the problem you see is one of he wins so many games and he plays so well so consistently that you can't justify moving off of him because he plays bad in a couple games. It's sort of like to put it in like basketball terms or in like actually I'll compare it to the Chargers for a long time.
Right.
They had Phillip Rivers, and Phillip Rivers always played really well. They always won like 10, 11, sometimes 12, 13 games. And he put up such great numbers. He went to Pro Bowls. I think he was an All-Pro a couple times. You couldn't justify moving off of him, but something always happened to them late in the season that would kill their chances of making a deep playoff run. And you also see the problem of, with Phillip Rivers, you always had Peyton Manning and Brady, and they just weren't good enough to get past them. With Lamar, you got Josh Allen now. You have Mahomes. The Titans are pretty good. Ryan Tannehill isn't quite on that same level, but he's pretty good, and they have Derrick Henry. So it's just hard. Like, when you're really good, but you're not good enough, you can't justify changing much.
Yeah, see, that's my question is maybe for other organizations, that might be enough. I'm just wondering for the Ravens, is that enough? To be that close, always a bridesmaid, never a bride,
yeah,
and keep tasting it and then losing it, are they willing to keep up?
And you have to think about, despite what I said earlier about the Bills probably could have scored more points, when you get right down to it, the Baltimore defense held the Bills' offense to 10 points, which no one has done this season. Like, the Baltimore defense played incredibly. Like, Justin Tucker missed some field goals, sure, but, like, that's not going to always happen. So I think what you're looking for from Lamar this offseason, if he can ever get his throwing ability to be 75% of what his running ability is, I think you have a surefire Hall of Famer, honestly.
Right.
But can he do that? Can he improve his passing ability to that? Because it doesn't have to be as good as the way he runs, because the way he runs is incredible. But it's very tough to be in that situation. I don't know what I'd do if I'm John Harbaugh or if I'm that Ravens organization.
Yeah. No, I think I hear you. It's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because you could go off of him and then find out you're in a much worse position than where you started.
And you probably would be for a year. The question is, after that, how far can you get back to where you were and be better? Because if you don't, then you're going to get yelled at by most of your fans and most of the league. Because it's like, what? You had a former MVP as your quarterback and you just got rid of him.
Right. Well, that takes us on to our good friend Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Who, he's having his moment here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's look at it here. 23 for 37, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He played pretty well. But he's been playing very well. I think part of it is I wouldn't expect to see a type of performance like this against the Chiefs. I think he's going to look a lot better against the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. I think that Baltimore defense is just so good that it just made him look worse than he really is. I mean, I think any other season he has a pretty good shot at MVP, but the problem is you have Aaron Rodgers doing what he's doing, and even then you'd still be in an argument between him and Mahomes. But yeah, I mean, this Bills team, it's been a long time coming for them, because in 2017, I think it was, they made the playoffs, but it was mostly off the back of their defense. 2018, they missed the playoffs. It was Josh Allen's rookie year. He was very raw. Last year, they won 10 games, but Josh Allen was very hit or miss. He didn't have any 300-yard passing games. He showed you plays of wow, but he never could string it together. And this year, I mean, this is what happens when you have a really good coach. When you have so much raw talent, it's only a matter of time before you explode. And he's looking like he might have more pure talent than even Patrick Mahomes does. But
say that for me again.
I think he might have more pure talent than Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes is better. Don't get me wrong, but I think his arm is stronger. I don't think he's as accurate, but his arm is stronger than Mahomes is, and I think Mahomes is a better. I think his feet are better, but Josh Allen kind of gives you almost a Cam Newton type of thing, where he's very big. He can run over guys, but he's also fast. Like, he's faster than DBs, or excuse me, he's faster than linebackers, but he runs over DBs. So if he gets to that second level, he's very hard to stop. I'm not saying he's ever going to be better than Mahomes, but he has a ton of talent.
Okay, so you think he's got a lot more potential?
Yeah.
That may very be true. All right, well, moving right along here. Of course, it's the Browns and Chiefs. What I will describe as the heartbreak game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Because you're really sort of led to believe that something was going to happen there.
Almost had it.
And it just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened? What happened out there?
The Browns got off to too slow of a start for their own good. They kicked a field goal on their first drive, and then they couldn't do much for most of the second half after that. I will say they got a pretty bad break at the end of the half there, because that definitely was helmet to helmet, and they should have been on like the half-yard line. And with Nick Chubb, you should be able to punch that right in. And I think they can burn enough clock that Mahomes wouldn't have been able to score at the end of the half anyway.
Is the rule too strict in the sense of you fumble into the end zone and the other team gets the ball back? Is that a rule that should be that tough on the team that perpetrates the offense, if you will?
Yeah, it's a tough call, because when you look at the actual thing that a touchback is, that is a touchback. The question is, should they change how touchbacks work so that isn't a touchback? I think there's an argument for it and there's an argument against it, because there's so many rules that go in favor of the offense. Now, you got to give the defense something. And that is a pretty good thing. Like if you're a defender and you see someone stretching out for the pylon, you can be like, oh, I can get this to be a touchback. You give them something there, but.
But for all things, I mean, getting off of that, of all the things that happened in the game, that wasn't even the most significant event. Obviously.
Oh no. Okay, so a lot of quarterbacks hurt this weekend, or a lot of players hurt, honestly, just this weekend.
Yeah.
This is my biggest problem with the Chiefs. They're so talented that sometimes it feels like they don't try hard enough, early enough. They could have blown this Browns team out, and they get too cute with their play calling. Like I was talking about to you earlier. They had that play against the Falcons where they threw a pass to Mahomes who was completely covered. Like, you can't. And it ended up in an interception, and they almost lost the game because of that, because the Falcons went down and scored. And if the DB for the Falcons had held on to that pick that Mahomes basically gifted to him, Falcons win that game. But your quarterback's dealing with a foot injury. You're Andy Reid. I know he called that same option play that Mahomes got hurt on. He had called that earlier in the first half, and he scored a touchdown on it. But the difference was that was on the goal line, and they hadn't seen it before. Right. Now you're giving the Browns the same look, and you're running the same play, and you're not on the goal line. Like, and before, now, to be perfectly clear, Mahomes should have probably pitched that ball for his own sake, but for the team's sake, it would have been a bad idea, because the Browns were all over the halfback back there. So that could have, worst case scenario, that could have ended up in a touchdown for the Browns. But, I mean, give credit to Andy Reid. He might have accidentally himself into this one, but he gave Chad Henne playing time in Week 17, so he was actually kind of ready to come out and close this game. Right. But if you're Andy Reid, you got to be more careful next time. You can't, because he's lucky that he got off with a concussion, which sounds weird to say, but Mahomes will probably be back from that. Something worse could have happened, and he might not get Mahomes back next time.
Yeah, he did not look good getting up off the ground.
Yeah, he was very woozy.
Yeah, I think he was very much stunned.
Yeah.
But the thing I keep coming back to, and I'm not sure I have an answer to this, so I'll ask you, is did the Chiefs, I want to figure out how I want to phrase this. Did the Chiefs' backup quarterback, did he pitch a win or did he pitch a save? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah,
Did he manage to just luckily run out the clock on this, or did he come out there and show his own skill?
I'll say this. The first drive that Henne was in, he threw the pick late. Had he not thrown that pick and they just kicked the field goal and basically sealed the game, I would consider it pitching a save. But he throws the pick, but then he comes back in and he has that improbable run to get them close to the first down. And then he runs that sprint out throw to Tyreek Hill. So I'd say that's pitching a win, but it really depended on the situation.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, when Mahomes went back to the locker room, you thought, "Oh my God, this is going to happen."
Yeah.
And then Mayfield kind of come up short here. Is that what we're looking at?
Kinda. I mean, he played. I mean, he was 23 for 37, 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. I think he didn't play horribly. He played well enough to win, because he should have probably the Browns should have had another touchdown on the board. Mahomes leaves, and with 6 minutes left, you give it back to the Chiefs with their backup quarterback. Realistically, if you're the defense, you have to get a stop there and give your quarterback the ball back.
Right. And
I think had they given the ball back, Baker could have done it. But also, another problem.
I think there was a 4th and 5 when they kicked it away the last time. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was what it was is they got the ball back with 8 minutes left. Mm-hmm. They got 1 first down off a QB sneak, but then Chubb got hit for a loss. Mm-hmm. Mayfield had to throw it away, and then they threw a quick screen to Kareem Hunt because they got the pressure on Mayfield, and they only got 3 yards. So it was 3rd and 8, and they had to kick it away.
Yeah.
Excuse me again. I think Baker isn't the reason they lost this game, but he didn't help the cause. No. Had they won, it would have been a win by Baker Mayfield, but he didn't play well enough that you can say none of this was Baker's fault. There were a couple throws where he was erring on. He obviously had the interception.
Yeah.
Which I honestly consider more a great play by Tyrann Mathieu. Like, the receiver was right there to get it, but Mathieu was just...
Well, I think everybody's assumption was they were going to lose the game anyway, and then suddenly this window opens with Mahomes going back into the locker room. And oh, by the way, had they gotten that touchdown, it might very well have gone in as a W.
Yeah.
Of course, it might have been played differently, so there's that too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on.
Right.
Of course, we've got Buccaneers Saints, of course, to round out the weekend. Our good friend Tom Brady at it again. What happens here? Let me just, I'm going to turn that graphic off for a second because it looks terrible.
Uh-oh.
And I'll fix it. No. Well, let's talk about what you saw there. Tell me about the Bucs.
The Tampa Bay defense played far better than they have in a long time against a quality offense. Drew Brees, I mean, I hate to speak for players, and he did say after the game, I'll think about it. He's done. He's retiring.
Yeah, you don't think there's any mystery here?
No, I think you could see it in this last game. As well as he has aged, he has not aged like Brady has. He played incredibly well for a long time, and the fact that he even got to where he is insane, considering the fact that he was seen as too small coming out of college. He had that injury when he was with the Chargers, and he gets picked up by the Saints, and there's like a 20% chance that he'll actually be able to play. And suddenly he's the all-time leading passer in NFL history. But at a certain point, I think he has to be honest with himself, and I think privately he kind of knows it's over. He can't throw it down the field well enough. I mean, hell, I heard someone making the argument, and I don't know if it's true, but there's merit to it. Jameis Winston, the backup, might have given them a better chance to win that game. I mean, you saw that ball he threw to, I don't remember his name, but it was number 10 for the Saints. Let's see if I can find him. But, Traquan Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but going to what Tampa Bay did, this was kind of a role reversal from the first two. The reason the Saints won the first two is because they didn't turn the ball over, they could run it effectively, and Tampa Bay did turn the ball over. In this game, Tampa Bay didn't turn the ball over, and they could run it effectively, and the Saints turned the ball over.
They turned it over once. Bucs turned it over once, didn't they?
I
thought they did.
I don't think they did. They started off slow, but they didn't.
Okay. Well, I was sure there was one turnover by Brady in the first half. I seem to recall.
No. There were a couple of almost interceptions that didn't end up standing because one of them, the guy's foot was out of bounds. The other one, it bounced off the ground.
Okay, that might have been what I was thinking of. But yeah, you've got the Saints, 3 very strong turnovers in the second half.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that fumble by Jared Cook really killed him. Like that, they could have gone up by 10, and instead the game gets tied because he fumbled and then Brady punches it in. I found this game very impressive by Brady. You won't see it in the numbers, but this is where his age and his experience starts to show. He knows that this isn't a game about getting to 400 yards passing or 5 passing touchdowns. This is a game about don't turn it over. Don't become too all about me. Make sure Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones get their touches. Mm-hmm. And then just high percentage throws. Whenever the Saints turn it over, make sure you cash in on that. And then eat clock. And he was able to do that. He was very self-aware. He had 2 touchdown passes. He ran one in for a touchdown off the quarterback sneak. And I also thought Tampa Bay was very resourceful. Because if you look at all their stars, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, they all combined for like 7 catches. Like, the leading receiver in this game was Cameron Brate, and the second leading receiver was Leonard Fournette. Like, this game was about, okay, our A guys can't perform, because Michael Thomas for the Saints didn't have any catches. Alvin Kamara didn't play particularly well. Our A guys aren't playing well. Which quarterback can go to the B guys and still be able to win this game? And obviously credit to both the defenses, because it didn't. I mean, obviously the Saints gave up 30, but the defense played well for a long stretch of time. It's just when your quarterback turns it over that much, it's hard to keep that up.
Right. So that means then, getting through those 4 games, we have 2 more games that will be coming up here. Of course, we've got the NFC and AFC trophy games that will be coming up. And I'm just going to kind of punch up this graphic here. Here's the bracket right now as it stands.
Yeah.
You've got the Chiefs and the Bills. You've got the Packers and the Bucks. that are going to be facing off against one another in these games.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it goes without saying, which is why I'm going to say it, who's going to be the big winners of these games. Let's start with the AFC Chiefs Bills. Where are we with that, and what is the likelihood of the Bills trying to pull on what I would describe as an upset anyway?
Had you asked me this question 2 days ago, I would have told you I think the Bills win. But seeing what I saw from the Chiefs, I thought they'd come out rusty. I thought they'd look unprepared because they took like 3 weeks off. They're able to turn it on and off, and when they need to turn it on, they can turn it on. I think Mahomes is probably going to be back, and assuming he's at 100%, I think this game's close because I think Josh Allen is just too damn talented, and I think the Bills team is really well coached, and they'll be able to get a couple stops on defense. But I think the Chiefs, they went to their backup quarterback, and they still were able to move the ball on the Browns, which the Browns don't have a great defense, but they have a good pass rush, which improves their secondary play because they don't have to be as light on their toes because the quarterback doesn't have forever to throw. I think about it this way. The Browns knew going in that the Chiefs are going to want to throw to Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. They knew that, and the Chiefs were still able to go to Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And then they went to their backup, and they were still able to go to Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Those two guys are just... I mean, Travis Kelce's the best tight end in football. There's a pretty good argument to be made that Tyreek might be the best wideout in football, other than, like, Devontae Adams. And when you combine that with a guy like Mahomes, and then they're going to be getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back, I think it'll be close, but I think I'd take the Chiefs to win. I think the final score will probably be something along the lines of like 38-30, 38-31, something along those lines. It'll be high scoring, for sure.
I got to cross-examine that for just a second, and that's fine. And I think you'll probably not move off of it, but I do need to cross-examine it. So they get out barely with their lives against the Falcons.
Yeah.
And then they barely get out with their lives against the Browns.
Yeah.
And then you bring in a team like the Bills.
Yeah, no. I mean, to be sure, I've thought a lot about this. The Chiefs, they're almost in a way like the Steelers. It's not as bad, but the Steelers always play down to really bad competition, and then they play up to really good competition. The Chiefs aren't as bad in the sense where even when they play down, they usually win. And had they looked more shaky against the Browns, I think, I'd take the Bills. But the Chiefs, arguably, this arguably could have been a blowout. Had Mahomes not gotten hurt, had their kicker not missed the kicks that he did, and I don't think he will again because Harrison Butker is pretty good. But...
Yeah, no, we got to stop on that for a second. You say that. But the entire NFL has been an absolute train wreck on kicking this season.
Yeah, it's odd. I mean, Justin Tucker's one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history, and he missed, like, I think 2 or 3. But I just think...
Hasn't it, though? I mean, has it not been...
it's been weird.
It's like it... And I hate to use this term right now. It's been like an epidemic out there.
Yeah, it's...
You know?
But I don't think... You don't usually get back-to-back games like that from kickers who are really good. You'll get... I mean, when you have, like, a... I don't know... Like a Cody Parkey. He just has a tendency to doink and doink and doink and doink. But Harrison Butker's pretty good. So I don't think he's going to have back-to-back weeks like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I knocked you off your thought, but yeah, so you're holding tight on your prediction.
You know, I think the Chiefs will win. And don't get me wrong. It's going to be close. It's going to feel very close to Chiefs fans. Like they're going to feel like they're trailing no matter what. Just because of how explosive that Buffalo offense is. And their defense, the Chiefs' defense is fine, but it's nothing special. I just think there's something about the Chiefs. There's just something that they can do where, yeah, it's...
Well, they certainly... I mean, compare the two for a second. Circus ball time.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, we've seen a heck of a lot more circus ball out of the Chiefs than we would say...
Yeah.
The Bills, which is usually comes when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
On the field.
I mean, if you just line up their rosters, the the Chiefs have the better quarterback. They have the better receiving core. They have the better pass rusher, and I think overall pass rush, and the better head coach. I think it's just a pure talent thing. The Chiefs have so much talent, and the talent is so well coached that it's just tough for anyone to keep up. And I think the Bills will keep up. I just think it's going to be tough for them to win. I'm not saying they have a 0% chance of winning. I just think it's about a 65-70% chance that the Chiefs do pull this one off.
So you think the odds are in their favor,
yeah,
but not necessarily a done deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well then, okay, we got to go over to everybody's favorite quarterback in the NFL, unless of course you're not from New England or Tampa Bay. Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers out there. It did not go well for the Packers early in the season.
No, the Battle of the Bays did not go well down south.
No.
I think what you're going to see from the Packers is far more urgency than when they played Tampa Bay the first time. When they played Tampa Bay the first time, you saw Aaron Rodgers. They got the early touchdown, and he did the celebration, and everyone was like, "Yay, Packers!" And they kicked the field goal. They're up by like 10. And then the momentum completely shifted because Aaron Rodgers got a little sloppy, which is not something you see often, but it happened 2 times in a row. They threw the back-to-back picks. Suddenly they're down by 4, and then suddenly everything starts working for Tampa Bay. That Tampa Bay Green Bay game from before is actually a lot like the Tampa Bay Saints game from yesterday, where it looked good for the Saints early, but then Breeze threw the pick that set up the Tampa score, and then the blitzers started getting home. And then the Tampa Bay offense started rolling a little bit. I think Tampa Bay's going to be able to keep it close just because even though they're going up north, Brady, their quarterback, and Gronk, their best tight end, are both used to the cold weather. So that's not going to be a problem for them. It could be a problem for other guys, but I don't think that's going to hinder them as much as some people might think. I also think that Tampa Bay, they have enough weapons that Green Bay's secondary is good, but once you get past their second corner, they become not torchable, but they become beatable. And when you're gonna have to put your number 1 on Mike Evans, your number 2 on Chris Godwin, and then you still have Antonio Brown and Gronk and Cameron Brate to worry about. Not to mention Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones.
Right. That's a lot to cover.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very.
I mean, not to overly state the obvious here, but this is where I don't know that it's clear cut and dry. I'm not gonna, I think I hear where you're coming from. I guess the thing that I would point out is Buccaneers didn't win because of Tom Brady. Bucs won because of their defense.
Yeah, no, they won because of their defense, and then the offense being able to take advantage of what the defense was able to give them. It was very much a, I bring home the groceries, you cook the food, something like that.
Oh, we're going to that analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think you're going to see a lot more urgency. They're probably going to run the ball a bit more, Green Bay, than they did. And I think what bothers me about the way Bruce Arians coaches is Brady's not good under pressure, especially now at 43 years old. He can't move a lick unless it's a designed rollout, in which case he can run. But when you force him to run, it's very tough for him. And
it's not pretty.
No. I mean, he's fine running laterally to throw, but if you ask him to run upfield, unless he's stepping into a throw, it's not great.
Right.
But I think whenever the pressure starts coming and they get behind a little bit, Bruce Arians feels the need to start taking those deeper shots to get them back in the game, which is a good philosophy, but then they're not running the ball, so they can send the pass rush because they won't have to worry about the running back blowing by them. And then they also send all their guys out wide instead of keeping like a running back in the backfield or putting in like a tight end like near the line to act as an extra blocker to keep that blitz from getting there. He did it a little bit last night, which is good to see. I hope he does it this time because the Packers pass rush is not as good as the Saints pass rush. So if you can keep Tom Brady clean, I think Tampa Bay definitely has a chance to win this game. But the Packers just, it's very daunting to go up against them. It's a very tough ask for an organization that is not in that spot all that often, even with Tom Brady, who has been in that spot. It's a lot to ask those guys to go up and play up to that level of competition for like the 3rd week in a row. I think This one for me is a lot less clear cut than the AFC Championship, but I think I'd probably take the Packers to win something like 33-28. I think Tampa Bay. I think it's 55% Green Bay wins, 45% Tampa Bay wins,
Right.
something along those lines.
I'd ask you to project forward from there, but I dare not.
Yeah.
I dare not. Well, okay. I think we've kind of covered it. Any sort of closing thoughts here? If not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I pretty much covered everything I had to say.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, obviously a decent weekend of football. I think there were some games that were kind of a letdown.
Yeah, I was hoping that Ravens Bills game would have a bit more scoring and be a bit more competitive, but
Right, just didn't end up being that. And then,
Yeah.
of course, I thought the Bucks game probably was the most interesting to watch.
oh yeah, they won. The Bucks won by 10, but it was a lot closer than that.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is that in watching the Bucks game before that third turnover, I was like, you watch, he's going to throw another interception. I didn't even believe it when I said it.
Yeah.
But then it happened, and it was just, there it was. So,
Yeah.
anyway. So, we know when you're done and wrap it up. And we, thank everybody here who actually sat and watched the whole thing, and we'll be back at some point.
All right.
Yeah, good times. And since we don't have any credits, we'll just run the intro again. How's that sound?
Yeah, something like
go.
that.
There we go.
That sounds good.